this is the only place on Earth that even remotely comes close to that.
that fits it. Like, yeah. And I agree. Like, the Rishat was my first like hook in, and then I did a lot of research into the um the Atlantic, the ridge and the Atlantic Ridge and the Azores, and I was like, oh, but over there. But I've always felt like looking at the text, Atlantis is definitely a kingdom. It's 10 different kingdoms. I'm thinking that the chunk of Earth that Atlantis, like where people would have been living and traveling around would have been quite a chunk of pie. And I always thought it would be like islands out in the Atlantic and all down the coast of Africa into Africa, maybe bottom of Spain. That was where my kind of my map was. But it was interesting in the documentary. I'd never really considered the idea of the Pillars of Hercules being on the other side and how many
Yeah.
actual potential pillars, because we all go, okay, well, we can all agree the Pillars of Hercules are here, so therefore let's count. And I'm like, actually, there's a really, really good argument in your documentary that they could have been on the other side with the tributaries and the entryway into that whole North Africa looked like more like the Amazon today with all the river runs and traveling up and down and across it. So yeah, how did you come across, was it through George that you came across the idea that the pillars were on the other side? Sorry, I saw the documentary over a month ago, so I'm a little bit fuzzy on the.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So this idea that the Pillars of Heracles, I'm going to say in the story, are located at the Gulf of Gabez in Tunisia. And I mean, in the Atlantis story. And you'd say, well,
Mhm.
Jack, isn't that a little bit weird? It sounds like you're playing with the numbers to make it fit George's theory. But if you go and look back, and I have done this, and you read other ancient authors, they do mention pillars of Heracles at other locations around the Mediterranean and Europe. And what does this mean? Well, when you go back and look at what this says, the pillars only became kind of truly and really fixed, let's just say in kind of the Roman period. So maybe, I don't know, like 100 BC or, around the turn of the millennium. Prior to that, okay, back in Plato's era, a lot of people were sort of saying, oh, yeah, they're kind of near the Strait of Gibraltar. But I think a thinker like Plato would have been amused, right? It's like if I ask you, where's the Empire State Building? And you say, well, it's at the southern tip of Manhattan. And then we ask somebody else, and they're like, well, it's 100 stories tall. It's at the northern end of Manhattan. And then we ask somebody else, and they say, well, it's 87 stories tall. It's actually on Brooklyn, the side across the
Yeah.
river in Brooklyn. What that shows is none of those people has actually seen this and they don't actually know what it is, right? So I think Plato would have been amused by this because he was always sort of busting the chops of other thinkers kind of quite subtly, sort of
Hmm.
saying, look, if you guys all agree that the pillars are somewhere around Gibraltar today, what you guys have overlooked is other people have said that they were other places in the past. So I think by placing them at the Gulf of Gabez, Plato was playing with this idea of, hey, things change over long periods of time.